I'm thinking of Leslie at this moment going, you didn't ever turn that on. So I'm going to turn that on right now. Hang on. Here we go. The Chogyam has talked about the exquisite risk of practicing without benefit. And then he goes on, of course, doesn't he, to say practicing without improvement, practicing without getting anywhere, practicing for a life, for the benefits of life. Joko used to say there are two viewpoints for practice. And this is written in Nothing Special, which I won't have time to read from as I had hoped, but we will in the future. And she said two viewpoints. One of the viewpoints is, how will practice benefit me? First viewpoint, she says, but as you continue practice, you begin to see that that was never the viewpoint. That was never the point of the practice all along. The point of the practice was, how can I then be of benefit to life? And that this is the real practice question. I love the truth of this. How can I then, through my practice, be of benefit to life? Not how is practice going to benefit me? Well, don't we see now in our current expansion of mindfulness practice and compassion practices, the advertisement, the merchandising around it all is what? How this is going to benefit you. This is understood to be a fine doorway, a beautiful beginning, a way that we all begin, because we all begin in some kind of suffering, with all of us having then the genuine wish, with genuine care, to find the path to the end of suffering. And so this is not understood to be a problem. So I don't want any of you who are going, whoops, I did. I have to tell you honestly, I practiced like, what's this going to get for me for at least 9 years? 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. It took a crisis. It took, wait a minute, this isn't working out for me. This isn't the end of suffering. In fact, as I'm turning towards life, it looks pretty hellish. It looks like you just get old and die. I'm not sure staring at a wall all day long in sesshin is exactly going to help that. I was 100% wrong, by the way, but I knew what I knew at the time. And so I essentially quit. Not really, but quit the Zen Center, not really. And Joko said, you know, this is the famous line from my teachings, maybe tennis. Maybe, you know, something else is going to get you to be able to hold on to these falsely believed thoughts that if we could only get it right, then we could keep all we love, then we could stay youthful or beautiful or, you know, whatever, smart, or keep our minds, or what, keep the partner, whatever it is we think, keep the job, whatever we think. And it takes all of us, I think, a slight crisis on the path, I have to tell you honestly, an essential crisis on the path, which we call mid-phase practice, where we go, wait a minute, this wasn't ever about me and how it was going to benefit me. By the way, it doesn't mean it doesn't benefit you. In fact, it's pretty clear it benefits you more than most things you'll do. However, that's not really the point. The point is, how do you awaken so that you can see that, in fact, you are here to be of benefit to others, and including yourself. You don't have to eliminate the self, that there is an exchange of self and other that is essential. As I care for me, so too then will I be able to care more exquisitely, more courageously, more lovingly, more nobly for others, and vice versa. As I care for others, so too then will I be well. Okay, so there's some thoughts about that for our practice today. We're going to look at just a few. And the person I thought of course, Yeah, ask not what you can do. Yes, thanks, Jim. Jim wrote in chat, JFK said it well. Yeah, didn't he? Ask not what you can do for yourself, but what you can do for your country. This is another example of these devotional, this life with humility. And today we're going to explore uh, Yasodhara, Buddha's wife, and her understanding and her enlightenment path as the one who stays, the one who does not go into fame, into glory, into history, but actually stays and does what needs to be done to find as the path to happiness, wholeness, and freedom. So the person that came to mind for me was Mother Teresa, who never said, this is about me, this is what I can do, look at me. And really quite the opposite, didn't she? She's really a fairly supreme example of humility and devotion. They often go together, by the way. And I just thought I would read something here that she had to say. As we practice today, with the exquisite risk of being nobody, no one, a person of no status, but an essential component on healing this world. These are the few ways we can practice humility, she says, to speak as little as possible of oneself. Well, wow, since 90% of our thoughts are what's self-centered, that would be a big practice. To mind one's own business, not to want to manage other people's affairs, to avoid curiosity, she means about what else is happening out there, get back to what's right here, to accept contradictions and correction cheerfully, yeah, not too many of us, to pass over the mistakes of others, to accept insults and injuries, to accept being slighted, forgotten, and disliked, defamed, to be kind and gentle, even under provocation, never to stand on one's dignity, to choose always the hardest path. Wow, right? That's an aspiration for sure. But I wanted you to start to get the feeling not only of what this one who stays, and we might even say the one who stays back, the one who doesn't need to be in the spotlight, the one who doesn't need to be first, the one who doesn't need fame, love, appreciation, gratitude, the one who doesn't need acknowledgement or validation. We talk a lot about that, don't we, in the Western psychologies, like you deserve this. And without this, there is a legitimacy to ending the relationship in our Western psychology. Here's another thought. Do not think that love, in order to be genuine, has to be extraordinary. What we need is to love without needing anything in return. That makes it extraordinary. And then I liked this one, also by Mother Teresa. And I wanted to start to show the cycle of development of this being a person of no status. The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. And the fruit of service is peace. All right, so here's a thought. So in order to see, we must let go of our prejudice that only that which is big or notable or positive or new and improved is of value. In the middle of a transition, when our emotions feel alien, our dreams seem small or non-existent, our outlooks uncertain, our esteem on a roller coaster, we need to be reminded that it is precisely there, in the particularity of the ordinary, the simple, the accidental, the shadow side, the uncertain, the unlucky, and the small, that life can be embraced. What did make him so resilient, or us? I don't know, but something about a new way of seeing the gold filling the cracks. That was from Terry Hershey as he was talking about the art of, I keep forgetting the name, of the Japanese art of filling that which is broken with gold. And how do we use everything then? And our final from Mary Oliver for setting our stage, something a slightly different angle. Most mornings, I'm up to see the sun, and that rising of the light moves me very much. And I'm used to thinking and feeling in words, so it sort of just happens. I think one thing is that prayer has become more useful, interesting, fruitful, and almost involuntary in my life, she says. And when I talk about prayer, I mean really what Rumi says in that wonderful line. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. There are hundreds of ways to be of service, to love, to contribute, and to kneel, which is a genuine act, right? They call it genuflection, a genuine act of this person who does not need to be seen in order to know their value, their worth, and their blessing on this earth and to all of us. And so we will prepare to sit, getting yourself situated. I'm going to see if I can stop that share for now, just so we don't have a video filled with words. Feel free to turn off your video if you don't feel the need for that. I love sitting with people. So when I get to see you, I love that as well. Dennis, so good to see you. I see Dennis on the screen. I hope you are well. And we'll talk some more after we practice. So get yourself established. Establishing the body. The body is the first foundation of mindfulness. Bringing one's attention to the body. And we get to take a moment just to feel our way in. Setting the feet, the legs, and the hips as the base. Inviting the mind, one's attention, and the breath down into this area of the body as we settle. Some nice in-breaths, releasing, settling, stabilizing out-breaths. Inviting one's attention home to the body, right here at its base. And we're not only breathing into the base of the body, we're actually also, aren't we, letting go of this idea of being somebody. This idea of this dignity or nobility, or even the preciousness of our human life. For first, we just ground right to the ground, kneeling on the ground, said Rumi. Remember from where we came, right there, touching the earth. And then the rising up with the in-breath, the rising up into this human life, accorded to few, remembering its preciousness, its opportunity, the capabilities we have been offered right here by being gifted this human body mind. Feeling that in the in-breath as the spine rises up. You, O nobly born, said the Buddha, remember who you are. And we do that by inspiring, aspiring, reaching up, right up the spine and out the top of the head. And then we come back in, don't we? Re-enter, re-inhabit this body down the front of the body, touching in gently, kindly. the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jaw, and the mouth. Can we let this be the face of no body special? Can we remember that by our very accord, by the gift of this human life, and by the way we then choose to use it to be of benefit, to be a contribution, that we are already radiant, beautiful beyond compare? It's already happening. No special eyelash required. Here we are. But let's be no body first. No one special. And then we breathe into the throat and the shoulders, feeling the weight of the arms as it anchors us, stabilizes and settles us. And then into the chest. And then into the heart. This gifted human heart. And then the diaphragm, the belly, the abdomen. See if you can find a place there within the breathscape. Don't tighten up too quickly. For many, just feeling into the sense of this whole body breathing. That was the first instruction. Know the body as the body. And then know the body sitting. And then only, once we know the body is the body, once we know the body sitting, we can begin to open to include and stabilize the mind in this body sitting here, breathing. And as we sit, with each out breath, beginning to touch in lightly to the out breath in particular, just for stabilizing at the beginning, the middle, and the end. Knowing the sensations of the breath. Not your breath, not the special breath, not the gifted breath, also all true, just this breath being breathed by this body, this present moment. staying in direct contact, most immediate with this one breath. Being watchful of that egoic mind, the one who chooses comfort, interest, curiosity, entertainment, distraction, who goes into judgment, to blame, to ill will. See if we can't, with each out-breath, settle the mind simply in the direct experience of the present moment. A relief not to have to be anything at all. Settling one's attention again and again. Using the out-breath as the guardrail to that sacred open space, that pause at the end of the out-breath, where we also lightly touch in and open and remember the vastness, the emptiness, the open space in which all things abide, including this body, this you sitting here. With each out-breath, as we settle into that precious gap, that wide open space, that boundless nature of our own awakened heart mind, can we know that each drop of mindfulness, each drop of presence contributes. And so we commit ourselves more fervently, more wholeheartedly. We do not bring an image. We do not bring a name. We do not bring the self, because no matter what part we bring, it comes with limitation. It comes with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But what is boundless is the continued awakening, the continued presence, this commitment to being right here so that we can see what is needed and how we can best serve life. We rest in the open space, simply being one drop in the vast ocean of awareness, but knowing that it matters. Can we hold the mind and one's attention in right inward measure, knowing that this is the beginning of our greatest contribution to peace, to happiness, to well-being, clarity of our own minds. The openness, the availability of our own hearts. And so we train like this. We always have the breath available as that support when the mind gets carried off. When we move into that self-centered stream, we awaken, we smile, and we come right back. This one breath. Which opens in its time into that ocean of awareness. And you don't have to do anything special. Remember, nothing special here. You simply follow the breath and follow the breath. Touch into the stillness, the open space, the silence at the end. And rest there. There is nothing to become, nowhere else to be, nothing you have to do but arrive completely. very infinite ways to kneel and kiss the earth. And this arriving is the first essential. Can I show up for this life exactly as it is? With no separations. That means no opinions, no prejudice, no extras, no narratives, no self stories, no selfies, just arriving. Watch the habits of mind. Do not make them something, just let them be thoughts. Let go, let be, and then be here. And we can't really show up by carrying so much of ourselves. It's too weighty, too heavy, too big. And so, in many of the teachings, the way of the Bodhisattva is just one. It asks us to consider letting go of the ideas of self, letting go of fame, letting go of blame. And in some of the beautiful language of the suttas, as we have read many times, we bring nothing, no ears, no nose, no eyes, no mouth, no body, not needed. But we bring this awakened heart mind first. No size, no shape, no color, no edges, no boundaries, no separation. We fully arrive. This awakening in the present moment requires that we place down all histories, all conditioning, all prejudice, bias, and preference, all ideas about the past, all wrongs. We let it go for fully being here. We place down all accomplishments, all fame, all love, all beauty. It doesn't mean it can't be here. It means we can't bring it with us. So that we can fully arrive. A person of no status means really a person with no history, no conditioning, no before, no to come, just fully arriving. This is the place of no end and no beginning, just this being here. The bardo of the present moment. No handles, no scaffolding, fully arriving. Watch for the habit of mind that then spins us forward into how this will benefit, how it will be improved, how we'll be better, how there'll be less suffering, how we'll get something from it. It says, no, we have to let go of that too. We have to just simply be here completely with, as Pema says, no hope for another moment. No hope for becoming something better. Can we tolerate the truth of just being right here? And what is the quality of that breath? If you're not your past and you're not your future, you're not your smile, you're not your successes, you're not your limitations, you're not your trauma. Who are you? Just this one breath. Can you feel the wide open space, the vast capacities and potential in not having to be anything special at all? No attachments, no aversions, no struggle. Nothing to have to fight to keep or get rid of. No fears, no obstacles, no distress. When we're not clinging or holding or pushing away. And as we breathe, we can see that as this one point of consciousness in the vast sea of awareness, we can be that light that clear seeing, that love. And that it is enough. Always enough. Nothing special, nothing extra, but this seeing clearly, opening completely. And then fearlessly doing what needs to be done. It is always the thing you can see, you can know, that comes right out of this beginning with not knowing, not being, not needing, not wanting, or not wanting. Can you feel the rest in this and the capacities that arise from it? No one special. What a relief. I just get to then do what I can see and be and do. No judgments, no measuring. We can simply then be love. made extraordinary by presence and its ordinariness. Just this. May we all be happy. May we all be healthy. May we all be safe and free from harm. May we all live with ease. And may we remember who we really are. And may this practice today contribute. I'm just going to take a little look, make sure we don't have any. Yes, thank you all. So a person of no status, a person without obstacle. Once we assume a status, we have to sustain it, don't we? We've got to hold it up. It's like a cardboard scaffolding of self. We've got to keep it going. You watch young kids, don't you, with the selfies? You have to find the right pose. You got to get it right at the right angle, right? You've got to hold it together, keep it something, right? It's a lot of work. Why? What's the why? What are we trying to do? You can chat this or come online and say, what's the work? What are we trying to do? Right angles, right something. We got something going on. Right earrings.
Certain image.
Certain image. Thank you. What's the image about?
Who I want people to think I am.
Yeah, the projection of who we think we need to be is bigger. Who I think I need to be. Like, this isn't good enough. Doesn't it have to start like that? It does, doesn't it? You have to start in deficiency to have to grab an image, don't you? Because what you just said is, this isn't working. This isn't enough. What if I just show up? Trying to maintain a lie. Yeah, isn't it really true? What's the lie? I can keep any of this. This is mine. I have ownership of this. And if I get it right, I get to keep it forever. And we even have some traditions that kind of help you with that, right? If only you get it right, then it takes a lot of energy. Boy, didn't you feel it? Managing what? Now, by that way, I don't think that means you can't wear lipstick or you can't, but don't make that your life. If it's taking energy from you, if it's more than a joy or an enjoyment, be watchful. It's going to take up time and energy that you don't, right? This striving for perfection. Yes, I've got to look, be, hold it together in a certain way, but then you don't get to be the what? The perfection of you, this present moment. It becomes rather static, very fixed, cardboard-like. And of course, what do we see, right? Don't we see? You end up looking like a piece of cardboard. You end up acting like a piece of cardboard. There's no more confluence. There's no more engagement. Yes, I just saw Chris thing that says what genuflection really means. Isn't it really true? Everybody knows the funny story of me in the Catholic Church with my grandmother, who would genuflect in front of me, and I thought I was genuflecting to her. And what a beautiful teaching, because she was worthy of that. She was a person, by the way, of no status. She was the most beautiful person I've ever seen or will likely ever see, and it had little to do with the blue in her eyes. It had little to do with it. It had everything to do with how she cut the corners of the toast every day special, because she was honoring something in me. That's the truth of this person of no status. And do we have the courage for this? Do we have the ability to take the exquisite risk to not always have to be the one that's in the front of the line? And what's our fear there? Let's talk about that. What's the fear? Yes, the right question is, am I serving best, Dennis? When we truly show up, then the answer is yes. Yes, you are. When you show up, wherever you are, on the tennis court, in the hospital, how do I most be here then? Most present to whatever the truths are, right? That Dharma, so that I can then what? Act most skillfully. When the mind wanted to hold on to presence, it was the very moment that presence left. Isn't it true? Even when you want to hold the present moment, we fight with that. Anybody notice that too, like Courtney? The truth is, you can't hold the present moment. You can only be in it. There's no holding. And this is the clinging, grasping, craving, wanting, other words that are used in the teachings, becoming. I've got to show up with something. I can't just show up. I don't trust. I don't have confidence. I don't have faith, said Mother Teresa, that I am enough, that this very being and the very presence is sufficient. Yes, one of the fears Leslie identified, thank you, Leslie, to be invisible, to be not meaningful, to be not valued, to be what do we do? Not worthy. And what do we spend all of our times doing? Architecturing up something that isn't most us, Courtney said, isn't most true. It's crafted. I hear someone, yes?
I was just going to say that, I think less is more in a lot of cases. And I'm going to be learning this in the next month. My oldest son, who left a year ago, is now coming back to the house. And it's just like a I think this is a really great practice for me, because I I have over the past year just gotten to that place where I am not inserting myself. And he is a whirlwind. He's a 6'3", 225-pound addition to our home. And he's a whirlwind. So I love this practice this morning. It's really going to help me. And my wife, they just go at it all the time. But this is really a powerful practice for me to just sit back, and I don't have to control it. I don't have to be in charge of it. It's going to really do much better without me.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you this morning.
Yeah, it's really true, isn't it? One of the images I have had is of being a screen door. Not so solid, not so present, like a mud, something stuck in mud, but really in the flow, the screen door that's taking all of life in and through and out, right? Can we imagine ourselves in some way like that vapor, rather than these solidified images of who we think and we need to be and how we think we need to be? Because that thinking mostly, if it doesn't come from this place first of being a person of no status, nothing special, said Joko. You don't know how she offended everyone in that Zen center. Guess who they were? They were UCSD professors primarily. And she would say, nobody here has a better mind. Nobody here. I don't care how much you run or exercise, or this doesn't give you any advantage in life. This showing up does. And, she was a beautiful example of that. So thank you. These are essential teachings. And in fact, we confuse them in our modern version of mindfulness as, and you will be better. You will be fixed. You will, which implies something that I want us all to be dramatically careful about. This idea that you were broken to begin with is something we have to be so careful of. I want to talk about Yasodhara for a moment. So I'm just going to check in and see if we have anything else essential to say. Yes. Yasodhara then is the Buddha's wife. And I got the book here, The Buddha's Wife. I don't know if you can see that. Yasodhara is rarely talked about. And she's rarely talked about because she was a person of no status. She was not the Buddha. She was not enlightened. At that time, gender was relevant. We're working on this still, aren't we, Paul? Gender established, who was who, color, who's who, right? Even color of the skin, right? We know who's who, lighter skin, darker skin, better skin, not so skin, hair, right? We've got all these conditions for like how you know you're enough. We choke on it all day, don't we? We're choking on it. One more picture of someone in one more outfit with one more hairstyle. We're like, who can keep, wow, if this is what's required, we're all sunk. Yasodhara did none of that. What happened for Yasodhara is the Buddha left on the morning of the birth of their son, Rahula. This is the story. And they had talked, Yasodhara and Siddhartha. And he said, I don't know if I can stay here and do this whole kingly thing and princely thing. And then he in fact saw an aged person, an ill person, a dying person, and a monastic wise person, and said, I think I have to go out into the world. This is my path. And in fact, he did. And he was gone for 7 years and became enlightened singularly himself, sitting under the Bodhi tree. So this is the relevance of this. This is a kind of archetype, right? One goes off on one's own to find God, to find freedom, that's one of the paths. And, you sit under the tree with yourself, and there is a reality to some of this, isn't there? Yes, sometimes just us acting necessarily. Well, Yasodhara was different. Yasodhara went into great suffering. She felt abandoned by the Buddha. Who was Siddhartha at the time. She felt that he betrayed her. And she stayed in her suffering for quite some time. She lay in suffering, is I think one of the ways it's said. And as she was laying in suffering, she began to see that while she was focusing on her suffering, that it just got worse and worse, that there was no benefit, that there was no relief, that there was no cure, that there was no, and she started noticing, as is another story with the mustard seed, she started noticing that while she was suffering, others were suffering too. They were worried, they were concerned for her. They had their own struggles, their own pains, their own losses, their own insecurities. They too were suffering. And she started realizing that whatever her situation was, while she was just laying there in her suffering, she was making everything worse for her, worse for others. And so she became a person of the path of right relationship. She began to take actions slowly, wasn't magical, in behalf of help assisting others in their suffering. And as she did this, as she assisted in these very small ways, by the way, nothing extraordinary, washing dishes, helping lift someone, her own mother-in-law became ill. She began just helping her move from place to place, lifting her quietly. She didn't say much. She didn't have anything to say. She began to become enlightened. She began to see that while we wallow in self-pity, while we form the vortex of self-centeredness, while we just hold on and cling to our own suffering, this is the path to true hell realm. This is the truth of our suffering in our world. And as she just slowly started to go, but I could do this one thing. I could at least help my mother move from the bed to the chair. I could offer care or a kind word or right to another in these very small, ordinary, not special, not languaged, wasn't a big oration. In fact, there's very little written about Yasodhara because of this, right? She began to form the path of enlightenment from right relationship. Now here's the question, right relationship to what? The path of right relationship, the path of ordinariness, the path of nothing special, the path of being nobody, the path to herself. Yes, 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 herself. She began to say, I, like others, know the truth of suffering. She opened. I like, oh, this is not special to me, this suffering. Is it? Is our suffering special? No, it's a part of this human experience. Aging, illness, death, and the loss of all we love. This is everyone's story. Yasodhara remembered that. She remembered the path and she remembered the story. And she said, whoops, wait a minute. This isn't just about me. This is our story, our human story. And I, in knowing the truth of this, can begin to act very unself-consciously, not to be famous, not to be a historical figure, not to get to heaven, not to, yes, It is the essence of compassion. That's exactly right, Lisa. Thank you. She found the path to enlightenment through right relationship with herself and others through compassion. Oh, I see the truth of suffering, not only in me, but in all beings. So when we see someone who is, who we judge, someone who is we perceive as rude, someone who we believe is not getting it together, someone who we don't think is doing the right thing, the first thing to know, as Yasodhara came to know, is that this is the truth of suffering. All our unskillfulness throughout all time, 2,600 years ago and further, is the result of what? Is the result of our suffering, our pain, our lack of clear seeing, our inability to even be with ourselves, truly, to see what is true. Watch your thoughts, isn't it so? For sure, don't believe what you're thinking. We might say that. Watch the thoughts, don't believe what you're thinking. Yes, it is through compassion, recognizing our shared humanness, our shared vulnerability. Yasodhara, out of her own suffering, her own pain, began to see, amazingly, with enough time, just being there in her own suffering. Wait a minute, this is just not my path. This is the path. There is no one special in this. We will all suffer. This is the truth. And what? We are all capable, each of us capable of seeing the way to the end of suffering. She was right there, resting in the noble truths, the truth of suffering, the truth of its causes being what? Our own clinging, our own cravings, our own wanting and not wanting. There it is. Our own wanting another life, a substitute life, Joko used to call it, somebody else's life, we often think, don't we? That's the cause of suffering. Not arriving here, not being right here, but going, if only I had that. That's the substitute life. That's the cause of suffering. Why? Well, we're right here with this, aren't we? We're in the hospital, Dennis, aren't we? When we're in the hospital. That's where we are. We all want to get out of the hospital. That's also true. But that ultimately, they say, is the cause of suffering, to go, wait a minute, but I'm here now. How do I use this as the path? How do I arrive fully here without this idea that it's just something either great or grandiose in me or broken and deficient in me? They are both filled with narcissism, aren't they? They're both filled with self-serving interest. The greatness of me or the patheticness of me, the same self-centeredness. And Yasodhara did the one. How horrible, how horrible, how horrible for me. Now, what she didn't see, which Joko talked a lot about, is the fact that the Buddha had another complete calling. Had he just stayed with her and her son, we would have, in terms of our romantic ideas, and here we are in Valentine's Day, right? That would have been lovely. That love would have been fabulous. And we would not have had these teachings on the path. What happened was that Yasodhara, by the way, the Buddha came back. Here's the end of the story. He returned 7 years later. And when he returned, she thought all this time that she would say, where have you been this whole time? What the hell? 7 years? I have this baby, you take off. This is it. And now you're back. And in fact, what happened was she saw the benefits of the Buddha's need. And in fact, was then in herself, by the way, enlightened. She went, oh, I cannot ask you to do this. This was not your work. This was my work. Your work was going out. My work was being the one who stays, being the one who attends to relationship, being the one who stays quiet sufficiently to feel and see, to sense, and then what? Respond to the truth of suffering. Yes, thank you, Ryan. I will read this. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Yes, and watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Isn't it true? Isn't it true? So watch your thoughts. The number one thought that these teachings say we have to watch most is the thought of what? A fixed, static, special self. Right? Fixed, static, whole, right? Without all of those other relational elements, static and permanent self. And all of our work to keep this was the practice today. Can we let go and just be? Let go of the past, let go of the future. We even let go of the ideas of our present, don't we? We have to let go of the idea about how it's supposed to go right now so that we can fully arrive here and now. All the thinking, recognizing thinking as thinking. And then we can use the thinking ultimately from that greater self, from that greater access, from that greater ocean of awareness, rather than from the self-centered thoughts that lead to only suffering. And in fact, there was a beautiful thing we would recite after every sitting. And one of the lines is that self-centered thoughts, only suffering, only suffering. And the solution was compassion's way. To see that we have to be willing to take off the special, to take off the need to be somebody, to see that we are all in this what? World, in this life, in this moment together, and consequently can form what? Right relationship to the whole, not just to the swarming vortex of what about me and self, but to the whole. Do what needs to be done. Do what needs to be done. What is that? Well, here's the good news, folks. If you can see it, it is yours to do. That's all. If you can see it to do, and you can see its benefit, because you are paying attention, not only to my own interest, to my own right, but to that which is in the wholeness. Do that, whatever it is. Do whatever it is. And that is sufficient. That's understood to be doing what needs to be done. What did Mother Teresa say? It doesn't have to look extraordinary. It doesn't have to look special. You don't have to get on a billboard in order for it to matter. And we're all looking, what did Terry Hershey say? It big enough, special enough, cymbal clanging enough. This is often why we do not act, isn't it? Because really, don't we do this? This thing called doubt, it's something, but is it really going to stop all hunger? No, it's going to stop the hunger for that one. Right? There it is. My son asked me in the car when we had that debacle with the money and the gentleman, and I didn't have any money, and I gave him that, I can't do anything, which was not true. There's a lot I could have done. I didn't do any of it because I got locked up in myself. My son said, yeah, but Mom, do you know? Do you know? How do you know he's not going to use that money to buy drugs or alcohol? I said, I have absolutely no idea what he's going to do with the money. I just know that he doesn't have anything, and I will do the best I can. And sometimes the best is, here's $5 and I hope you use it to the benefit and your well-being. Sometimes I have enough energy, time, opportunity to go to Jack in the Box. And then you do that too, right? So be watchful of this evaluation. Is it enough? It's one of our deadliest. And am I enough is really what the question is. Am I enough? That's the real question. Because if we're asking, the answer is no, you have forgotten. No, you have forgotten that every small act done with, what did Mother Teresa say? Extraordinary love, extraordinary consciousness, extraordinary open-heartedness is always healing, whatever, however big or small, including the cutting of someone's crust off their toast. That 66 years later, I remember. Why? It wasn't the act, it was just cutting crust off toast. What do I remember? The love. Don't I? Who could remember the act as meaningless, just cutting toast? I remember the love. I remember her looking at me with love, going, you deserve this. This is good. Nobody'd ever cut crust off my toast before. By the way, I like crust. It's not really a thing. An extra moment, an extra seeing, an extra showing up. This matters. So can we be like Yasodhara? Could we risk simply doing what needs to be done without reference to what's it going to get for me? Without, is anybody going to notice? Is it enough? Could I do without doing any of the here it is. Here's a moment. Can I offer myself in this simple way? Nobody's in the grandstands. Nobody's noticing. Nobody saw a thing. In some way, what do we already know? Liberation. Easier. Then I just get to really be the me that's here to be. How beautiful is that? I'm going to check in, make sure we don't have other thoughts about this before we do our dedication of merit. No, thank you, Dennis. You think you need to do it the same old way, but it's not true. How do you love right now? How do you love in the hospital? How do you love when you don't feel good? How do we do this? How do we love on a Saturday when it's 51 degrees and we have no plans? How do you do that? Right? This is our practice. How do we love and be a person of no status? Because it's liberating. Watch what happens when you don't have to judge what you just did as good enough or not. You just did it. You just did it. No judgments, no evaluations, no analysis, no how do you compare to blank or yesterday or tomorrow. It says let go of all past, let go of all future, and let go of the present moment and what we think it should be so that we can be fully in it, so that we can fully arrive in it. These are my thoughts for today. May we all be like Yasodhara, the one who stays in the background, the one who recognizes by her staying the truth of suffering and the way to its end. That sounds like a beautiful way to spend the day, snuggled between two puppies. If you don't have two puppies, snuggled between your own two arms. There's no one way to snuggle. Offer that to yourself. All right, everyone, let's take a few moments to gather our merits of this practice. This is an essential and important piece. Why? This is something we can do right now. We can do this right now. What good can be done right now? We can gather the merits of all of our goodness, of all of the practice. We can gather all of its blessings and all of its benefits and actually breathe it in right here, make it present, make it real, calling it to mind. That's the way we begin. And then we gather in the heap of our own radiant hearts. We gather all the goodness that's been given and offered and exchanged throughout all time. And it's so big, it's just going to blow your heart up to the size of the sky and beyond. Let the sky be the chalice of your own boundless heart. Live like this. May we gather all these blessings, all these benefits from all practice, and may we offer it now with each out breath and with each in breath. May we offer this blessing to ourselves and then send it out to all those in need, to all those who may benefit. And you may call some of those very beings to mind. It helps to remember that my presence on this earth right now can be a blessing right now. May all those who are ill be well. And then think of a specific. Do you know somebody who's not feeling well? Do you know someone who was recently ill? We can send all of our blessings to Dennis. Right? There's someone we know who was recently not well. May you be well. Do you know somebody who's lonely? Can you send the blessings of right relationship, right care to them? May you be free from loneliness. Do you know anybody who's hungry? Is there anything you can do about that? Breathing it out, sending that goodness, that ordinary love that becomes extraordinary by anatta, no self, nothing required, don't need to get anything back. The gift, the giver, and the receiver then become one and all benefit. May we offer this to the end of suffering and the realization of true, abiding, unconditioned happiness and freedom. May we all be healthy. May we all be safe and free from harm. May we all have ease and well-being. May we all know who we are enough to be willing to be a person of no steps. No armor, no chains, nothing to drag around, just this vast open heart. And may this practice today contribute. So be it. Thank you all. Blessings to you all. Happy Valentine's Day. May you live that love in incredible, ordinary ways, finding them all. I trust you can and will. It's good to see you all. Dennis, good to see you. I hope that you're well. And we will be gathering again together on Monday night, Tuesday morning at 7 for the continuation of our Real Change Book Club, and on Thursday with Greg at 7. Please join him. And again, on Saturdays, I hope I get to see you then. Everyone enjoy this weekend. Be well. Thank you, everyone.